Welcome in once again. It's time for Trust Matters, Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions with Sean Robertson of Gateville Law Firm. They're located in Yorkville and they're online at gatevillelawfirm.com. Sean joins us again in the studio. How are we doing today, sir?
I'm doing well.
Excellent. So we talk a lot about different things that you guys are involved in, and we kind of go over a lot of the the do's and don'ts and those types of things. And then sometimes a curveball comes in these situations, and something happens. There's a cancellation of a deal, and then it's like, okay, what do we do now? We got the proverbial punch in the face. How do we dodge? How do we recover? We're talking about when a real estate deal cancels in a residential situation. So where do we start here?
Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, it happens, more often than you would like to believe. So one reason you have a good realtor or a good attorney on your team is when things go bad, you need to prepare for them. So generally, the first part of the process when somebody signs a contract is they have a home inspection. Sometimes they like the result. Sometimes there can be an agreement between the sellers and buyers. But as long as the buyers, within the deadlines provided by the contract, cancel, then they get their earnest money back. The flip side is, from a seller's standpoint, if the seller wants to cancel for any reason other than price, it can't be because they got a better price offer. The seller has the right. So, like, for example, this morning, we had a deal where my seller wanted to cancel the deal. So the buyer never had a chance to send their home inspection letter, and we canceled. So the seller has a right to do that. The buyer has a right to do it. Sometimes it occurs.
Okay. There's other parts to this too with the earnest money disbursement. What's that all about?
Right. So obviously with real estate, you're putting earnest money down, which is, you're putting some skin in the game. So a lot of times you'll get the money back, but sometimes, like, for example, I had a deal a couple weeks ago where it was supposed to close, let's say it was today, as an example. We go to the home, the walkthrough. We had a pest test. The test came back that there's pests. My client it's about $12,000 to remediate it, doesn't like pests, and we canceled. There is somewhat of a dispute on the earnest money. And so a lot of times there can be an agreement. Sometimes there's no agreement. And the escrowee that's holding the earnest money, if there's no agreement after like a couple weeks, they normally have to file like a lawsuit in court, and the buyer and the seller have to deal with it in court.
That was a pretty valid reason, though, right, to want to cancel if they're in a situation that they didn't initially know about. Now all of a sudden they do. Things have changed there.
Absolutely, especially because that issue was an important issue to my client. Maybe some people would have been okay, if the seller remediated the issue, I'm okay, but some people have phobias.
Absolutely, and if the seller didn't want to spend the money to make the fix, then
correct. And unfortunately, in real estate, that happens from time to time. Different people have different interests, and that's why you have an attorney fighting for you.
All right, so what about another option here where this comes into play with the property relisting or any future offers?
Yeah, so what happened is, my contract canceled today, and we had a backup offer. So a lot of times a real estate agent will have a backup offer or two, so meaning they can go to people in case they don't think a deal's going well. It's a backup plan, and so that's what happened. So we didn't have the contract signed this morning, but we finally got it done. And my point is, a lot of times that's what occurs in real estate. The next deal comes up, especially in the spring market that's coming up. Anything after the Super Bowl is pretty much going to be a hot real estate market.
So there could be a backup offer waiting in the wings without even putting the house back on the market. So
right. A lot of times what happens is those previous buyers had wanted the house, and generally during the springtime, it's a very competitive market for a house.
All right, about 30 seconds left. What about the final point here on documenting the cancellation?
Yeah, so it's really important that your attorney cancels within appropriate deadlines. So you don't want to miss deadlines. Deadlines are very important. Number two is normally what will be signed by the realtor is a mutual cancellation agreement. So the buyers and sellers will sign that. The house will go back on the market. It's really important that you have a team that's experienced, so when things go wrong, you really realize the value of a team. Remember, a house purchase is probably most people's most biggest purchase, so don't go cheap on it.
And there's, I think we've covered this one before. There's like an outline for all of these procedures, right? That multi-board residential real estate contract 7.0.
Oh, actually, it's 8.0 now.
Oh.
So it just went in effect on February 1st.
Oh.
There's a grace period, so as of March 1st, the 7.0 will no longer be in existence. The 8.0, the upgraded version, exists.
Okay. A little upgrade. Nothing wrong with that. Everything adapts and changes and improves, so that's good. The folks at Gateville Law Firm are there to answer all of your questions for you. If you have anything you want to find out, or if you want to tackle one of these things in your situation, get the answers from experts that know what they're talking about. Trust Matters, Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions, the name of our show. Gateville Law Firm there in Yorkville, online at gatevillelawfirm.com. Call them at 630-780-1034.